I'd just like to address today a little bit about Ken Hovind's post-tribulation rapture teaching. I want to play a short clip here, and then I'll make a couple comments about this particular thing.
That's a good point. I mean, he shifts his focus to the disciples, as you've pointed out, Kemp. And when it comes to the elect there in Matthew 24, correct me if I'm wrong, all throughout the New Testament, the elect is always referring to believers. And right here, I'm sharing screen again, brother. I'm curious what your thoughts here. Romans 11:7 makes a distinction, a differentiation. What then Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So is there really any justification on the pre-tribulation side to say, well, the elect in Matthew 24, that's not really talking about believers, that's talking about Israel, when in fact, within the New Testament itself, we see a distinction between the elect, aka the believers, and Israel. What are your thoughts on that?
Excellent. Yeah, that's correct. Only the Christians are the elect, not the Jews.
Right.
So only the Christians are the elect and not the Jews. But the verse he picked out, let's look at the chapter and what it actually says. We'll go down to verse 7 first and read what he did. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Now, if you're saying this is the saved Gentiles, we'll read it like that. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the Gentiles have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. That makes no sense. But even if that doesn't get through to you as a post-tribber, let's just look back and see in context what this is actually talking about. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. And Paul says this, I say then, hath God cast away his people? God forbid. Now, who's his people? Well, it's Israel, of course. Notice, for I am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. I also am an Israelite. God hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Again, talking about his people, Israel. Watch ye not what the scripture saith of Elias, how he maketh intercession to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what saith the answer of God unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Okay, 7,000 men. Well, who were those 7,000 men? Let's look back in 1 Kings. And right here, 1 Kings 19:18, God says, Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel. In Israel. They were Jews. God's talking about Israel. All the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him. So you're dealing here with a remnant. Notice verse 5, even so then at this present time also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. Notice a remnant of who? A remnant in Israel, just like there was a remnant in Elijah's day. Elijah thought he was all alone. No, he wasn't. God had 7,000 other Jews that were saved. So there's a remnant today, according to the election of grace. And notice and if by grace, then it's no more of works, otherwise grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then it's no more grace, otherwise work is no more work. What then? Again, Paul's asking simple questions as he's going through this, explaining about Israel. Part is blinded. God has set Israel aside, not totally, but in part. God always will have a remnant according to this election of grace. What then? Israel hath not obtained what he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it. The elect are those elect, the remnant of Israel, and the rest were blinded. So many times Ken Hovind and other people that want to promote this post-tribulation teaching totally ignore the difference in Matthew 24, call the elect there the church, and then they want to go off and say the elect is the elect in it's referring to the church and everything throughout the New Testament. And this young man that pulls out this verse has apparently little or no understanding at all about the Romans chapters 9, 10, and 11. They're talking about the Jews. So here it's easy to see, looking within the context of chapter 11, to see that this remnant is talking about Israel. And when you look down where it says about the election hath obtained it, that's the remnant. That is the ones that God has reserved in Israel. So there's always going to be a saved remnant. Another thing I don't really like today is when people call the saved people today the remnant church. You'll never see remnant used in reference to the church, only to Israel. Now, you will see election used about Israel. You'll see it used about the church. You'll see it used about Jesus Christ. You'll see it used about the elect lady that John writes about in 2 John. You'll see elect is used a lot about different people, different individuals. So this is another error that Kent Hovind promotes continuously as proof of a post-trib rapture, and yet he falls way short. There's so many other things, but this is just another issue. Thought I'd just address this today.